Let's talk about leveraging. I know it's that scary topic. It's money. It's talking about finances. It's talking about how am I going to pay back this debt, all that good stuff. So I can relate because I've been there and done that. So I get it. But for me, and my experience in real estate investing is using other people's money to make me money. So even when I'm sleeping and not in the typical work hours, I still want my money to be making me money. So that's why I leverage other people's money to make me money. And in that, one of the things that I have done is I sold a property in Colorado and I put those proceeds in a money market fund with Edward Jones. So I pull every month $2,000 from that, which pays for my mortgage in Florida. So every month, no matter what I'm making and what I'm doing, I'm making sure my mortgage payment is paid every month from that money market. I'm getting dividend income from that. So in turn, even though my mortgage is $2,000 a month, I'm still making money off of my money, even though I hold it with Edward Jones. That's just one of the tools that I'm using. So now my mortgage payment really isn't 2,000, it's 2,000 minus the dividend income that I'm making. So my mortgage payment is less, but I'm also still making money. So that's why I chose to do that, leverage money that way, specifically on that. There's other ways you can leverage, and that's getting a home equity loan or a line of credit. You can meet with a lender. A lot of credit unions and a lot of local banks will do no closing costs on their home equity loans. That's another way you can leverage money off of your property or properties to purchase other investments. That's another way. Some people will use secured loans or gifts from their parents. They'll get angel investors. There's a lot of ways you can fund your investment projects. Credit cards, if it's interest, if you have no interest for 12 months, that would probably be the only way I would maybe suggest that. Otherwise, once that payment is due and that interest starts kicking in, that's an expense you're going to have to budget for. So these are all things that I think about when I'm investing on a particular property. I mean, the more money you put down, obviously, the better the rate. But we're in a rate environment where rates are already higher. I just have my investors sit down and I'll have them look at their margins. Like, what is their margin on this particular project? Do we need to be within, $200-$300 a month on that? Well, then we know, is it worth paying discount points to buy that rate down? Are they going to hold it? Is it a short-term investment? Those type of things. Because I think discount points like that buy down was such a huge thing. And I'm not saying it didn't work with a lot of people. I just don't think it works for everyone because everybody is different. So I think, and people don't know the buy down, right? It's usually 1 point. So for example, it's a $200,000 house and your loan's $200,000. 1% of that is $2,000, right? So 1% of that is a discount point. So if you wanted to buy the rate down and pay one discount point, which is 1% of 200,000 in this example, it'd be $2,000. How much of a rate difference am I going to get? It's usually only a quarter difference. So you're at 7.5, didn't pay a discount, or you could pay $2,000 and get 7.25. Okay, so it saved you $40 a month. What if you're not going to be staying in this property for 5 years to recoup that? So that's why you want to get with the lender who's going to do that math. Sit down and go, okay, is this a 5-year play, a 10-year play? Then is it worth paying that discount point? Maybe, because you don't want to recoup paying closing costs again on a refinance. So all those things you have to factor in on when you're talking to an investor. So you know what I mean? You really want to know, like, what is their goal on this particular property? Is it a short-term or a long-term play? Because if it's short-term, discount points doesn't matter. They just want to make their residual income off the monthly rent and build equity. It's typically what they want to see. If it's a longer-term play, they won't have such a hard time paying those discount points because they're going to make up for it. I think we're still in an environment where you can ask for concessions. I think it's always part of the negotiation process is to see what the sellers are willing to do. It doesn't hurt to ask and then negotiate that way. That way they know where you're coming from. It's not all about price. It's about price and maybe helping out with closing costs. It's all things that you want to communicate with your real estate agent so they can negotiate properly for you. Then you also can gauge where the seller is coming from. How willing are they to come down on price? How willing are they to help you with your closing costs on this property? So I think you always have to ask those questions in a respectful way to be able to get at least a counter or at least gauge where your seller's coming from. So I don't think it hurts to ask. I know I've gotten concessions on several of my investments because we were in different rate environments at different times. Maybe I just wanted a little bit extra so I didn't have to use my capital for closing costs, using somebody else's money again, which is our topic of leverage, right? So I'm using the seller's money to help me make money so I can make this investment and not tap into my checking and savings. I'm using $5,000 to $10,000 of their money, depending on the loan product, to help pay for my costs. And now that money I can invest in another property. I don't think it hurts to ask. I mean, it depends on the environment that we're in, but we're in a high rate environment. Sellers want to sell, buyers want to buy, but buyers want to buy. It's like they're sitting on a fence and they got one foot dangled on each side and they don't know what to do because they're waiting for these rates and this rate fairy to come down, and make rates COVID rates again, and that's not a healthy environment for us. We got to normalize that. I mean, that's, I guess, what I tell my, it just depends on each investor and what they're trying to do per property. And then I sit down with them as a lender or a real estate agent, because then I know what properties we should be looking at. Location is going to be key. But then I also want to make sure I have a lender that can do the type of loan products that I need them to do. A lot of investors, this is what I know, a lot of investors show income for their most recent year, and then the year before that wasn't so good. So knowing a lender that knows their guidelines, because if you've had your business for more than 5 years, typically you only need to do 1 year tax return. You just have to prove the business has been in existence for 5 years. So maybe their income in 22 was, in 23, it was great. Well, we want to use the 23 tax return to qualify them. Some of them write everything off and they report no income. Well, that's great for tax purposes, but not for lending. So then we'll do a bank statement loan. 12 months bank statement would get them in a loan product with 25% down. But the DSCR is a really popular program too. Like, a lot of people just do the DSCR because they're hoping that appraisal is going to come in and cover what that mortgage payment's going to be. So once we get, that's the only thing on that program is nobody has control over that but the appraiser. You can have really good credit, but that appraisal has to come in enough to cover that mortgage payment in most cases. Need to put 25% down, need to have good credit, but that one's no income, you're not having to prove your debt to income ratio or anything like that. So that's why the DSCR program is a lot less paper trailing, less qualifying, but it speaks to some investors. They're willing to pay the 8.5%, 9% rate on that program because you're going to pay higher because it's a non-conforming loan, but they'll pay more because that's how they have to qualify for it. So it's a give and take. So that speaks to one investor where it may not speak to another one. Somebody that has 2 years tax returns wants that conforming rate so they can make more residual off that investment. I'm Kim, your Florida real estate resource. I would love the opportunity to help you navigate through the lending or the real estate process. So stay tuned and hit me with the contact information below. Make it a great day.